A very good evening to all of you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to yet another virtual learning session for the 2024 Advanced Levels Econ-Hub Theory program. So in terms of our classes, as you guys are fully aware by now, we are well into the first unit of the syllabus. And you guys know in economics, the units are rather big and in depth. We have to cover a lot of things. So it takes time to complete a unit and move on to another unit. So in terms of unit 1, we are starting the final learning key area for the first study material. So basically what we are trying to do now is get ourselves a very good understanding, or we would say a working understanding, a practical understanding of what is production and what are the inputs we use in production, and what are these economic resources, non-economic resources. And then we are going to go into detail and talk about the 4 main categories of economic resources we are expected to be very good with in economics, namely land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. So we will spend a bit of time and make sure that we have a complete, a proper understanding of these 4 economic resources. Sometimes we can refer to them, or we can call them factors of production, without which we cannot really produce goods and services. Right. So that's what we are trying to focus on with learning key number 4. In terms of the study material, I was informed earlier by one of your classmates that we are starting in page 35. So if I can quickly share that on the screen with you guys, or share the screen here, the study material. So basically, as you guys can see, we are in page 35, Fundamentals of Production Factors and Related Concepts, Theory Program, Learning Key 4. So with just the cover, or the starting page is giving an idea about what kind of things we will be learning in this particular learning key. Right. So as we go into scroll down, we start talking about production, a very basic idea of production. Then we will start looking at what are these productive resources and how do we classify or categorize productive resources, mainly into economic and non-economic resources or free resources. Right. So let me now go to the slides. Basically, in terms of the slides, I will have to start with the slides I've shared with you guys for 1.9, and then we'll come to the 1.10 and 1.11, both the slides, the student version, the PDF I have given as a downloadable to you guys. Right, okay. So, in terms of, no, wrong. Right, in terms of, okay, here we go. So we'll start here. Yeah, that would be the ideal place to start. Okay, basically, what is production and what are productive resources? When we ask someone what is production, or when you guys think about production, one of the very first things that comes to mind is it is a process of basically converting something into something. So that is what most of the time we think about production as. If you guys can let me know what is your basic understanding of production. If you guys can unmute your microphones or use the group chat option, just give me the simplest meaning you give for the term or the word production. Let's start there. What do you guys think production is? Right, you have the study material, all that is fine. Just top of your mind, Buddha, just, when you hear the word production, what do you think about? At least the words that you think about. You guys can respond, please. Yeah. Why am I not getting any responses? What's going on? We have talked a lot about the importance of you guys responding so that I can continue to do the class this way. If not, I will have to introduce some new rules, which might be a bit inconvenient, right? So let's see. Akila has responded. I am waiting for Aisha, Christine, Fatima, right? Randomly, I'm just saying, Shera, all of you guys to respond to that. What do you think is production? Okay, I'm getting some responses now. Okay, good. So converting raw materials into products. Production is the process of making or growing something in a large amount. Okay. Producing goods with raw materials, manufacturing of goods from raw materials. Good. Let's see. Anyone else who would like to contribute, be a active part of the discussion? Whatever you think is production, that's what I'm asking. I didn't ask for the correct or the technical definition for production. What do you think is production? When you hear the word production, what comes to mind? Okay. Is that all? Okay. Maybe for the next question, some of the others will also contribute. That's okay. Right. So basically, what is production? Production is what you guys have said, first of all. More or less, you're in the right path, the right way of thinking when we talk about production. Production, as I said earlier, it is a process of converting something into something. The somethings in production are basically with a very broad common word we can use. Very broad common word we can use is, we can say inputs. Okay. So some of you guys have used the word raw materials, right? So some of you guys have used the word inputs. That's okay. So broadly, we can call them inputs. Anything that we are using in the production process is an input. And the process is to end up with what we call an output. Some of you guys I saw had used the word product, which is very good. It's a really good economic word to use, product. So production is then a process of converting inputs into output. So if someone would define production, as a process of converting inputs into outputs, I would 100% say that is correct. But there is a small issue when it comes to, in economics, when you guys are asked what is production, there are three main components or three main things we should talk about. One obviously is input. The other is output or product. Perfectly okay. Then the third component is we have to always understand, we have to always give the meaning that production is a technical process. Production is always based on some kind of a technical method, methodology, or technology. One of these words is very important for us to use. So when we define production, how we like to say it is, or the correct way to define production in economics would be to say, yes, but the basic understanding is the same, no problem. But we bring this word into this to make it correct, make it complete. Production is the process of converting inputs into outputs using a specific or a given production method, or you can say production methodology, or you can even say using a specific or a given technology. Specific or given technology. We normally say using a specific or a given production method or methodology. So that methodology part is also very important when we talk about production. So if you look at production in that sense, we can say a process of converting inputs into outputs through a specific technical methodology. Then it says rational business organizations, right? In your study material, these are given. A rational business organization attempts to engage in production at productive efficiency. That productive efficiency, we will learn this concept called productive efficiency in the next area in Unit 1 when we learn production possibilities frontier, a very interesting area. We will talk about productive efficiency. Simple understanding of productive efficiency is trying to make the maximum output by using the minimum amount of inputs. Trying to produce an output at the lowest cost is called productive efficiency. Productive efficiency. Right. So, so we believe a rational or a logical business organization, a profit-motivated business organization, right, would always try to be at productive efficiency when they engage in production. So production is then a process of converting inputs. Such inputs broadly can be land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. We will learn. That's what this learning key is for, to learn about these 4 factors of production. Then converting such inputs through a process. That process mainly has a technical methodology. We have to use a specific technology, a technical methodology, right? And we have to have a way to manage the production process, right? We have to, so management always involves 4 things. But you don't have to write or remember these things, but a general understanding is good to have. When we say management, right? When we say management, there are 4 things that we look at, right? 1, a manager's job, functions of management, we say, right? What is the job of the manager? Number 1, a manager needs to plan. Number 2, a manager needs to organize, right? Organize, yeah, that's clear enough. Number 3, a manager needs to provide leadership. So we'll say lead, or sometimes we say direct also, leadership. Number 4, a manager needs to control, right? The process has to be properly controlled. So planning, organizing, leading, and controlling are the 4 things managers do. So we need a proper management method, and we use the inputs with a specific or given technical method or technology. We end up creating an output. As you guys used, a really, really good economic word to use is product. When we say product, it could be tangible goods as well as intangible services. So this is how we look at production as a process, right? Remember, technical methodology. However simple the product is, there is some technical method that we follow, that we use in producing goods and services. Are we clear? Right. Productive resources or factors of production. So this word, factors of production, sometimes we use it here. Sometimes we say, when we say factors of production, most of the time, right? When we say factors of production, most of the time, the idea, right, that comes to your head is, right, when someone says factors of production, most of the time, the idea that should come to your head is, right, or when someone says factors of production, right, oops, when someone says factors of production, right, I'm trying to draw a bulb more or less. The idea that should come to your head is, you start thinking about land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So someone says factors of production, normally what comes to mind is land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, or land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. Get it? Right. But here we are saying productive resources with a broad meaning. We'll come to that in a moment. Right. So when we say productive resource, simple understanding is a resource that is used in production, or anything used as an input in producing goods and services. Anything used as an input in producing goods and services can be called a productive resource. So we say anything, right? It's a very simple but good word there. Anything used as an input, used as an input. In your study material, Buddha, you can underline or highlight these words, right? Anything used as an input in the process of producing goods and services. In the process of producing goods and services, we need to satisfy human wants. So anything we use as an input in producing or production can be called a productive resource. Productive resource. Such productive resources, there are two categories. What are these two categories of productive resources? Economic resources and non-economic resources. Now, before we came to this area, in learning key number 3, we really understood the difference between economic, right, and non-economic, also known as aka free, right? So the main difference we realized between economic and non-economic is, yes, we said opportunity cost, that's very correct. End of the day, we realized the main difference is between economic and non-economic is anything becomes economic. Anything becomes economic if scarcity of resources or relative scarcity is involved. When relative scarcity is involved, right? When relative scarcity is involved, anything becomes an economic good, economic resource, economic decision, right? Anything becomes economic if there is what involved? Scarcity involved. Relative scarcity of resources is involved. That's why, Pata, we say scarcity is the central concept, right? Scarcity is the foundation of our science. So if anything is economic or anything to do with economics, there has to be what involved? Scarcity involved, right? So I think that will give you a very good understanding now. So economic resources can also be identified as scarce resources. Economic resources can be identified as scarce resources. So then non-economic or free resources are, we don't normally say non-scarce, but we say unlimited, or we can use words like abundant resources. Unlimited or abundant resources. So economic resources are the scarce resources. Always remember, how do we talk about scarcity? Yes, we talk about scarcity as a relative concept. We say resources are scarce compared with resources are limited or insufficient compared with very good. I'm getting some responses. Let's see. Yes, compared with human wants. Human wants have a certain feature. Some of you have responded very well. Yes, Shara, good. Right? Human wants, yes, but human wants have a certain quality. No, what is the quality? Unlimited. Very good. Right? Good. Unlimited. So, economic resources are resources that are scarce in comparison to unlimited human wants. So economic resources are those productive resources. Economic resources are, don't forget, right? Economic, non-economic are two types of, right? Economic, non-economic are two types of productive resources. There are two types of productive resources. Okay, so so economic resources, right? Very basic understanding, with a very simple concepts. These are anything becomes economic if scarcity is involved. So economic resources are resources which are scarce in comparison to unlimited human wants, which means to produce all the goods and services to satisfy the unlimited wants. These resources, we realize there is a limitedness or insufficiency. So they are economic resources, scarcity based. So obviously, big scarce resources with alternative uses, when we use scarce resources with alternative uses, when we allocate or use scarce resources with alternative uses, when we make choices about So choice becomes unavoidable now when resources are scarce and have alternative uses. We have a problem of choice, or a trade-off becomes compulsory. So when we make that choice, what happens? When we make that choice, what happens with regard to scarce resources with alternative uses? When we allocate them, when we make choices about them, what happens? What is the next thing? Next outcome is what? Whenever you hear the term economic, you think scarcity. When you talk about scarcity, next you start thinking about what? Yes, good. Give me the responses, please. Very correct, Akela. You have given the correct answer. Nuha, correct. We start thinking about what? When we realize we have scarce resources with alternative uses and we are forced to make choices, what do we end up with next? Very good. Hasini, correct. Very good. We end up with, basically, we end up with opportunity. Very good. Madhija and Netmi also have responded correctly. Brilliant. We end up with opportunity cost. So economic resources are resources which have, when we use them, there is definitely an opportunity cost with them. There's definitely an opportunity cost, right? So yeah, that's the basic idea about economic resources. Right? Then there's a way we categorize or classify. That's a good word with that. Classify economic resources. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let me finish the discussion now. Non-economic or free resources. So anything becomes non-economic or free when it is unlimited or abundant. So these are unlimited or abundant resources. They have alternative uses, but because they are unlimited, we are not forced to make choices, which means there is no opportunity cost. There is no opportunity cost. There is non-economic resources. Remember, when we produce not all, but most goods and services, we will have to use mainly economic resources, but also we might use non-economic resources. I'll give an example in a bit. Right. Then we talk about economic resources. I think this is printed and given. Is it? In the study material, Bata? Is it given? Yeah, it's printed and given. So I'll just use the slides as a way to give a summary. Okay, you guys can go through the study material notes. And in one part of the study material notes, I'm explaining that basically every country has a certain stock or endowment of resources. So every country has a certain, we have used that word before when we learned scarcity, but you might remember, stock of resources. Every country has resources, right? In other words, every country has a certain endowment of resources. Okay. So how much, what is the stock of resources? What kind of resources are there? Quality of resources. So this stock of resources, quality of resources will have a direct impact on deciding every country's what we call potential output. Potential output, or another good word is we say production capacity. What is the word? Production capacity. So a country's production capacity or potential output, which means how much goods and services that country can produce, depends on the stock of resources, quality of resources that country has. For now, we can forget quality. We'll say at least the stock of resources will decide, right? Stock of productive resources will decide that country's production potential or production capacity. Production capacity, right? So let's clear this a bit. Okay. So in summary, we now know we now know what economic resources are. The word economic, we know the meaning. Productive resources. So economic resources are one type of productive resources which are relatively scarce, meaning limited in supply, use of which creates opportunity cost. So they are relatively scarce. Let's highlight, no? I think it will be clearer. They are relatively scarce. Okay. Relatively scarce and creates opportunity cost. Creates opportunity cost. There are four main types of, or four main categories of economic resources. Sometimes in questions they will ask, how do you classify, or what are the main categories? How do you classify, or what are the main categories of economic resources? Then we talk about land and capital, right? Then we also talk about labor and entrepreneurship. Labor and entrepreneurship. So in your study material, Buddha, right? In your study material, let me show this quickly. In page number 38, in page 38 of your study material, I've left some space. Okay. So here, what I want you guys to do is, write wait, hold on, we'll do it properly, Buddha. I mean, let's do it this way. It will give you a fuller knowledge, right? The main, right? So let's call this the main classification, or the main categories, right? The main categories or classification, right? The main categories or main meaning categories or classification. Then we'll talk about alternative method 1 and alternative method 2. Okay, right. So let's be clear. Number 1, we say land. You guys can write this with me now. Land. Number 2, we say capital, right? Write capital as the second one. Number 3, we say labor. And number 4, we say entrepreneurship. Write the full thing, please. Entrepreneurship. Right. Now, this is the main method to go. Okay, main way to go. Then, alternatively, you can take land. Okay, you can take land as the natural resource. Land as the natural resource. Then we can look at capital as the, we can say man or human is better actually, man-made resource. Okay. Labor and entrepreneurship, we say, sorry, labor is the human resource. Okay. Labor is the human resource, and entrepreneurship is the special human resource. Special human resource. So that's one categorization or one method to classify. The main method is this: land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. Then we also have another method, right? Good to know these things, right? We can say, we'll say land and capital. Okay, that is what I'm putting together here. Land and capital together, we call them property resources. Land and capital together, we call them property resources. Then labor and entrepreneurship, we refer to them as broadly human resources. Human resources. Okay, I hope everything is clear. So in the exam, when you're asked to define and then classify economic resources, mainly your answer should say land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. That's enough. But you should know in MCQ questions, in another situation, alternatively, we can categorize or classify economic resources as natural, man-made, human and special human resource, or property resources and human resources. Property resources and human resources. So all these things are good to know. Okay, Right. If you guys are done, please let me know, Buddha. Then we can move on and quickly talk about and then write the note on non-economic free resources. Why I said quickly is because we have already understood what are non-economic or free resources. Right. If you're done, let me know. We can move on, Buddha. Okay. Right. So some of you guys are done. I think most of you guys are done now. Yeah. Right. Excellent. Let's move on then. Right. So in the same page, you guys have to write a note explaining non-economic or free resources. Non-economic or free resources. So let me jump to the slides a bit. Okay. And we'll get it done. Right. So non-economic or free resources, I'll give a few points for you to consider. Right. Right. After writing all this, Pata, it's good if you guys can leave a bit of space, because sometimes there's a certain way we classify them. I'll give a note on that also, right? That's better to know. So can we write this quickly? Where it says non-economic or free resources, please. Okay. Right. I think we are okay. Right. Now, we talked about non-economic or free resources. So everything is based on what we discussed with what is a non-economic, what is a free resource. Then I've given some common examples also, right? We'll talk about an example of production that connects or that uses both economic, non-economic resources, right? Both of them are used. We'll talk about that. Before that, I just want you guys to make a note, right? I'm sure you have the space. Now, this is not always done, but we can say sometimes, right? In certain situations, we say we'll say certain context, right? So that means in certain context or in certain situations, we'll say we classify non-economic resources into two areas. One, so in certain situations, we do this classification, right? So yeah, I'll go with the same color, no? Right. Anyway, so you guys have to make a note of this, right? In certain context, we say non-economic resources are renewable resources are there, one category. Number two, non-renewable resources are there. So this renewable, non-renewable, actually we learn it under land. That means under economic resources, we say natural resources or land resources are either renewable or non-renewable. But in some context, we have seen your examiners, your professors, when they look at productive resources in a very broad way and think they are all factors of production, they tend to categorize non-economic as renewable and non-renewable. Because anyway, Bhuta, renewable, non-renewable is the natural resource. So most of the non-economic resources are natural resources. All of them are natural resources. All of them are natural resources. So we can categorize them as renewable and non-renewable. Something just for to make it easier for you to remember or to quickly know what are renewable, what are non-renewable. Quick thing we can use is, right? I'm figuring out a color, right? We can say renewable are, right? Live resources, live meaning living resources. Okay. Then non-renewable are lifeless, non-renewable are lifeless resources, lifeless resources. So live and lifeless is the way to recognize the difference between renewable, non-renewable. Both are natural resources. There are some live natural resources like fisheries resources, forest resources. Then there are lifeless natural resources such as crude oil, such as minerals, these kinds of things. They are known as lifeless. They are known as lifeless. So, right. So now we are even more complete with our knowledge. Now we know that there are economic, non-economic resources and economic resources we know are mainly classified or categorized into land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. Then when it comes to non-economic resources, in certain contexts, we can categorize them as renewable or non-renewable. Or generally, we can give examples. Common examples are things like sunlight, air, seawater, etc. Okay, right. Then let's take a quick example before we go to the next area, right? And look at the concept summary for economic resources, what we will have to mainly learn. Now, if we think of an example, right? Just a quick example, we'll say the example of, I'm going to use the word making. Maybe we can call it manufacturing, right? When we talked about production, some of you guys had used that word also. Or producing, we'll say making, right? Making. most of the time we don't like to use the word creating because it gives a bit of a kind of a natural idea, no? Right? A creation. So it's better to use the word making or producing, right? Manufacturing, all that. Making salt. Let's take the example of making salt, right? Can you guys tell me what kind of economic, non-economic resources go into the process of making salt? See, try to categorize it into economic, non-economic, and talk about the inputs that go into making salt. Just suggest some things. You can use the group chat or the microphone, unmute the microphone and use it. No problem, right? In your device, okay, in your hands free or whatever it is, you have a microphone also, no? So you can go both ways. Anyone who likes to do that, please do that, no problem. You use the audio input. If not, the chat inbox also you can use. Right. So Hasini, you have said something. Can we give examples of it, or have you said the message before, Buddha? Now, when you send one message and then the other one, in between other people send messages. So I get confused. Very good. Yes. Now you have to say the input and what is it? Economic or non-economic? Okay, let's go with the non-economic first. Good. Some of you have mentioned the correct examples for non-economic, right? Mainly two things or mainly three things we use, right? Non-economic. Very good. Yes. Brilliant. Yeah. Most of you guys are giving the correct response. Ayesha, you have also said non-economic, but I'm confused as to what is non-economic, right? So maybe you can be a bit more clear. Sarah, correct. Yes, non-economic. Right. Excellent. I think you guys have given good answers there. So basically, Buddha, when you take non-economic category, right? We'll say economic, right? Econ meaning non-economic. Mainly we use, yes. Yeah, good. You guys are giving some examples of economic also. Sea water, right? Or ocean water, sometimes simply salt water, which comes from the ocean. That's the main input, the main raw material is that. Then we fill this, we bring the water from the sea through a system of drains or system of canals or whatever it is. And we fill the water into flat area of land we need in the dry zone. We fill it into very shallow, not very deep, maybe 1 feet maximum. Very shallow, huge ponds. In Sinhalese, I don't know what is in English, maybe okay, in Sinhalese we call it Lunu Leva, right? It's like a huge area of these ponds that are there. All the seawater is filled into them. Then we close them, seal them, and then we simply allow the sun to do its job. What does the sun do? It will evaporate with the heat, with the warmth, with the wind. It will evaporate all the the moisture, the liquid, the water, and what will remain in the base of that ponds are called the salt crystals, right? The raw form of salt will remain. Then it has to be then taken and purified and cracked and made into different, we have salt, table salt, then what do you call this? Salt crystals are there. Likewise, they will break it up, right? So basically, seawater, then we have sunlight would be the warmth or things like that. Then under economic, right? Under economic, resources, we will mainly have, let's see, you guys have given some things, capital, machines, yes, human, labor, yeah, okay. Human, labor, human resource or labor, right? All that can be there. So yes, very good. We need to use labor, right? Then we use certain machinery, certain equipments, things like tractors and vehicles and things like that, all that. Then we will have to use, we'll have to have a certain storage, you know, so we can have a factory, warehouse kind of a place. We need to have all that is economic resource. No, all this is capital, right? Machinery, equipment, factory, right? Vehicles, tractors, all that is capital. Then we might need to have a person who will organize the whole thing. And yes, even land there comes under economic resource, right? Economic resource, because it is not just the natural land we use. We make it into those shallow ponds and everything we have to make and then use it. So therefore, it's more economic resource, right? And then, yeah, economic now, okay, I'm a bit confused as how I should pronounce your name. Niaz, I'll pronounce that part of your name, Puta. You have said that capital machines to purify. Right. Okay. Sorry. I'm very sorry. What you have said is correct. I have misread it. Right. Okay. Very good. Okay. Right. Very good. Right. So land, and we need someone to sort of start this, or the organize the whole thing. So we need a bit of special labor resource called entrepreneurship. All that comes under economic resources. Economic resources. Right. I think we are clear. Right. If you guys have any questions, anything to clarify, you need to ask. Okay. Anytime you can ask. Unmute the microphone and ask. That will be brilliant. Switch on the camera, unmute the microphone and then ask. That will be the best. If not, at least use the group chat option. Okay. Right. Concept summary. Basically, we have 4 types of economic resources. I said earlier, remember, factors of production also sometimes we use, no problem. Land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. Land and capital are property resources. Labor and entrepreneurship are human resources. Altogether, let's learn 4 of these very completely. So let's start with, no, not the best color. Right. Let's start with number 1, land. Then we go to capital. Okay. So let's start with land, and then we go to capital. Once we have covered the property resources, then we switch to labor. Let's talk labor. And finally, we talk entrepreneurship. Even though, so that means we can complete the discussion on human resources. Even though entrepreneurship is the starting point of any production process. Entrepreneurship is a starting point of any production process. Right. So let's move on. Land resources, shall we? Right. So when we say land, now for all four of these categories of resources, what I try to do is give you a very simple 1 or 2 line, very simple but very complete and theoretically correct definition. So first thing, I want you guys to be very good with that first part of the definition, the first quick definition. All of you should be very good with for land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. You will see for all 4 that is given. Secondly, I will give you another part to the definition. When you are to write a good answer, you need to know that second part as well. There, I will talk about some main features and talk about the reward or what is the price of land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship called in economics. So that is how we build a good explanation about, a description about these 4 factors of production. Separately, we'll talk about their characteristics. That's okay. Characteristics are important. That's how we identify whether a given economic resource, whether it's land or capital or labor or entrepreneurship, we need to know the characteristics to identify them. That's okay. But when you describe land, labor, capital, land, capital, entrepreneurship, and labor, right? You can say it in any order. When you describe, there is that first definition you have to provide. Then the second part with the main features and the price or the reward. And then we need to know the characteristics. Are we clear? If there are certain types of, for example, capital, certain types of land, then we have to talk about them a bit as well, because those things are tested a bit in your exam, right? So let's learn how to, in the very basic but very complete way, to define land or the natural resource. So land or the natural resource, the picture is not ideal because the picture shows a farm. No, a farm is not land actually, it's capital. So just don't think too much about the picture, right? All natural resources, a nice way to say that is gifts of nature, gifted to us by nature. All natural resources which are freely available, used within the production process, See, just one sentence, 2 lines may be complete. Very easy to remember also. Use it. Okay, right. So please write for the in page 40. I think the page number is correct. We have started the main area now, factors of production. Of course, in your study material, you might notice, because you guys have it in front of you on the table, right? On the table where I have set up the device and everything, right? On the table, you can see next to your device. In the study material, I have given an entire page where I am giving a summary. So there I am talking about, land and saying it's the natural resource and the reward is rent. Then I've given some things about land we should learn. Then I'm talking about capital, right? Are you guys familiar with that? Can you just give me a few minutes to do this? Then we'll come back. Okay. I'm talking about this part. Yeah. Concept summary. Land, natural resource, reward is rent. We need to know the characteristics of land. Obviously, we need to know how to define and describe land. That's what we are learning. Then I said land is what we normally categorize as renewable, non-renewable. We'll learn them. Then capital, man-made real assets. The reward is interest or interest rate. Characteristics, the definition, the characteristics you have to learn. Fiscal and there are types of capital. Physical and financial, fixed working and circulation, human and natural social capital. Then we have economic and social overheads. Then we have to learn how to create capital. Capital is man-made. No? So how does this happen? What is called capital formulation, no? Investment, right? In case I forget, let's quickly do that with that. Sorry to take you from one place to another, right? Jump here and there. Capital formulation is what we call investment. Okay. Capital formulation is what we call investment. Capital I is the abbreviation. Investment. Right. Then, okay. Right. So these are 1 and 2. Land and capital are property resources. What is a property resource? Property resource is where the ownership can change from one person to another. You can be the owner of property. You and the ownership, right, is clearly defined. Get it? The property I have, I can sell it to you or someone else, and with a transaction, the ownership can legally change from one person to another. They are property resources. But we say labor and entrepreneurship are human resources. Why? Because they are not human. Labor, entrepreneurship are human resources, not property resources. You can't buy and sell a person's labor. You can provide labor to a production process, right? And earn a wage or a salary. That's okay. That doesn't mean your company has the absolute legal ownership of your labor. No, your labor is yours. Your entrepreneurship skills are yours. They are not property resources. You can't buy and sell them and the ownership doesn't change. Is that clear? Right. So under human resources, land, the physical and mental efforts, the reward is wages. We have to learn obviously the definition, the description, then the characteristics. Also, what will decide a country's level of labor resource. We have a few other things we learn there also, which are important. Then entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship, a special type of human resource, special type of labor. We have to learn the definition again, the characteristics, and what is the job of an entrepreneur, functions of entrepreneurship. What is the role played by an entrepreneur, right? All of these four economic resources, or these two broad categories of economic resources, that is property and human resources, have something in common. What is that? That is scarcity. They are limited in supply. They are limited in supply. That's what makes them economic resources. Broadly, we can call them factors of production. That's not wrong. But we have missed something here. What is the reward for entrepreneurship? So we have to write that. Right? The reward for entrepreneurship is, we call it profits. Okay? Profits. The reward for entrepreneurship is profits. Okay? The reward for entrepreneurship is profits. Is that clear? Profits. Right. Okay? Profits. Right. So that's that. Right. Now let's go back. You were writing the definition for land. Remember? Right. Get that done, Putta. I think you guys were mostly done. So I'll just start explaining. Yeah. Right. So when you think of land, think of the natural resource that is used in production. We define it by saying all natural resources. The word all is to give the meaning. It's not only land, meaning that not only the land area. It's not only the land area. It's all natural resources. Anything natural, freely available and used in production is land resources. Okay. So production factors are considered as land when in its natural state, okay, and tends to be fixed in supply. What is the natural state? That is how it is in nature, without or before human involvement, before people have changed it. Now, for example, if I ask you a question like this, sand, is it land? Okay, a very popular question I ask, right? Is sand, is it land? Land as in, is it a land resource? Sand, is it land? Just say yes or no. Okay, good. I want all of you guys to give it a try. It's okay. Just say yes or no. Sand, is it land? Yes or no? Okay. Some of you guys are saying yes. Some of you guys are saying no. Some of you guys are not saying anything. Why is that? Oh, okay. I'm getting a few more responses. Good. Have all of you responded? Is there anyone who is silently waiting without responding because you don't like sand? I didn't ask you if you like sand. I am asking, is sand land? Yeah. Okay. Most of you seem to say yes. Okay. If I was asked this question, In other words, if I was you, I would ask, right? I would ask an important question. I would ask my question in two ways. I would ask, I would say, in which context, in what situation, in which context are you asking me about sand? In what situation are you asking about sand? Or the same question I could ask, right? The same, I'll write it here, Buddha. Same question I could ask by saying, in what state, in what state, in what way are you looking at sand? You understand the question there? Now, if the sand we are talking about is on the riverbed, if the sand we are talking about, yes, is on the, very good, Buddha. Yeah, that's a question. We are trying to gather some information before deciding, because land as a factor of production, land as an economic resource is in its natural state, no? Natural state. So we are trying to ascertain, meaning, sorry, we are trying to figure out whether it's in the natural state. Natural state. Okay. So I had asked these questions. In what context are we looking at sand? In what state is the sand in? Now, if we are talking about sand on a beach, if we are talking about sand on the riverbed, the river, inside the riverbed is there, bottom of the river, on the riverbed, on the beach, sand is land. Because why? Why? Because that is the natural state. That is the natural state. It's land. No problem. But sand, which is there to be sold in a hardware store, they sell sand with other building materials. The sand in a hardware store is not land, because that is not the natural state. Unless and otherwise the hardware store is built on the river or something. Get what I'm saying? You can ask, Mudalali me Velitachuat denna, that's how they sell, no? Or a cube or whatever it is. Velitachu the hayat denna, the Mudalali says, okay, Mudalali looks at the Golea fellow and the Golea jumps into the river, brings and comes. Get it? Even then, once when you buy it, it's not in the natural state in a sense. Get it? So you have to think a bit. Just because something is natural or natural resource, it doesn't mean it might be land, because if there is a what involvement, human involvement. Now the same thing we can say for crude oil. Crude oil is land as long as we are talking about the crude oil deposit. That means inside the surface of the earth, deep into the surface of the earth, in the seabed or in land area, wherever, in the many meters into the soil, when the crude oil deposit is there, that is land. But when you have a crude oil, we'll say a rig, or in the middle of the ocean, there's this big platform we build, the oil rig we call it, that, or oil drill or whatever, and take the crude oil out, put it into barrels, put it into oil tankers and send it around the world. That is not land, that is capital. Whether human involvement makes it capital. Are we clear? Yeah, we are okay? Clear? Right. So that's important. Next, it says supply is fixed. Sometimes for this thing, this thing meaning the future, instead of saying fixed, we will use the word perfectly inelastic, perfectly inelastic. Elastic meaning stretchable, flexible, responding. No, inelastic meaning doesn't change, fixed. right? Stiff, perfectly inelastic. Now, when we say perfectly inelastic in supply or fixed in supply, mainly we are talking about, right, the land area, mainly the land area and certain non-renewable resources, what we'll say land area, the land area. Now, if you take a commercial city in our country, if you take Colombo, especially if you take areas like, we'll say Gall Road, most of you guys are familiar, we'll say down Gall Road, right? There is a certain, on the seaside, on the land side, there is a certain amount of, right? Right? There's a certain amount of land area there on both sides of Gall Road, right? Now, year by year, when our population increases, when our need for economic activity increases, when our commercial activities increase, we need more and more buildings, more and more land to do these things. Just because we need more land, does that mean the land available on either side of Gall Road keeps increasing? When our demand increases, does the supply also increase? Or is it fixed? There's a certain amount of land, that's it. If all the land is used and buildings are built and occupied and used for economic activities, just because we need more land, land doesn't appear. No, the supply is fixed. Does that make sense to you? The only thing that happens is with land is, you guys all have noticed this, because the supply is fixed, when our demand keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, the available land, the price becomes higher and higher and higher. The value keeps increasing. That's it. Supply doesn't change. Are you with me or not? You know, right road, Gall Road, we have this same scenario. I mean, in any area, land area, now Sri Lanka is 65,000 something square kilometers. That's it. That doesn't change. However much our population increases, however much our demand for land increases, economic activity increases, that is it. That's all the land we have. Are we clear about the yes or no? Ayyo. Right. Then what about that land? You know, just outside, just in front of Galle Face, right? You know, Galle Face. Every Sri Lankan knows Galle Face now, no? Right? Okay. Even the small kids know Galle Face, right? Okay. You know why? Aragale, right? So in front of Galle Face, there is something coming up, no? You know, there is a thing happening. There is a port city, whole thing is going on. Then isn't land increasing? We had a need for land. We had a demand for land, and now there's a supply. There's a land. Is the port city island, is it land? Please answer my question. Is it land? Why are you guys not answering? You don't like port city? Is it land? As defined in economics, as a factor of production, is it land? Very good. All of you guys have understood, I think, or anyone responding has understood. I hope all of you understood. It is not land, Buddha, because it is man-made. It's a human creation. It's an artificial island. So it's not really land. It's mostly capital. Right? So one could argue, no, we are creating land. True enough. But if the definition is natural resource, then that is not natural. Right? Okay. I think you guys are clear. So let's move on. Economic price reward for all land resources. Right? Any kind of land resource, whatever you might call it practically, in economics, the word is rent. Anything you pay for land, anything you earn by leasing or selling or offering land for production, anything you earn from land, anything you pay for land, in economics, the common word is rent. It's an umbrella term. Under that, many words can be there, but the common word is rent. Common word is rent. Examples are forest resources, petroleum resources, marine resources, and water resources. Then atmosphere. Can you see? Atmosphere, it's not only the land area. All natural resources below and above the surface of the earth. That's a good way to remember, no? All natural resources below and above the surface of the earth is land resources. Let's quickly run through the characteristics. Why do we need to learn the characteristics of features? What is the point now? So, Putra, this is the definition now. The definition or the description, I would call the description, has the definition, the very simple definition. Then this is the second part where you talk about, second part has two areas. A, the main features and the reward. Main features and the reward. B, give some examples. Give some examples. So once you do that, you have written a really good description, a full mark scoring description for land. Get it? Right. I think you guys are clear. Okay. Characteristics of features. I was asking, why do we need them? What do we really mean? What do they really mean? Characteristics of features is the way we identify if a given, we'll say, economic resource or factor of production. FOP is, don't say FOP and all that, factor of production, right? Identify if a given economic resource, factor of production is a land resource or is land, is a land resource. So we need to know the features, the characteristics. No, even if you want to identify a person properly, you need to know the characteristics. So what are the characteristics features that helps us identify, okay, this resource is a land resource because it has the characteristics. Get it? Right. A gift of nature. So some of the things we have talked about, remember? Gift of nature. The supply is fixed. Okay. That word is there, perfect and inelastic. The society will not have to bear a cost because it's naturally supplied. No, right? It is supplied naturally. Human involvement is not there. Land is not a unique resource. What does that mean? Right? Land has alternative uses, can be used to fulfill different objectives or purposes. You can do many things with land. Unique meaning only one thing you can do. No, land is not unique. You can do many things with the land resources, right? Especially if you take a land area, piece of land, you can use it for agriculture, commercial activities, you know, for recreational activities. You can make it into a playground, whatever it is, all that you can do. Park, something like that, right? Then immobile in nature. What does immobile mean? You can't move it physically. Physically, you can't move land from one place to another. We call this important phrase is geographical immobility. Geographical immobility. Immobility, meaning can't move from one place to another. Land, it's in natural state, you can't move it from one place to another. Right. Then, so there is immobility. Then land is a primary factor, right? Actually, there are 4 primary factors. Land is one of them. Land, capital, labor, entrepreneurship. These are called the primary inputs, primary factors. Primary factors do not become a part of the final product. They only help us produce goods and services. Help us produce goods and services. The land resource or the what we can get, the productivity from the land resource, the labor, capital, entrepreneurship, all are needed to produce anything. But they are not necessarily the part of the product itself. Get it? Right. So primary factor. Just remember that part, land is a primary factor. Then exist in the form of renewable, non-renewable. We'll learn that. Then non-homogeneous. What does non-homogeneous means? The quality of land is different from country to country. Now, Sri Lanka as a country, right? Sri Lanka as a country, we have, I would say, clear gold. This is just the word I'm coming up with, okay? Don't worry, think about it too much. Sri Lanka has clear gold. Okay, clear gold. I'm not going to say PO gold and all that. Now, that is Sri Lanka. Then, if you take a country like I think it is called right. Anyway, a country in the Middle East. So we'll say Saudi Arabia. There's some other letter I can't remember now. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, whatever it is, right? If you take Saudi Arabia, right? They have black gold. Both are in liquid form, by the way. What is clear gold? What is black gold? Can you tell me quickly? Clear gold, black gold, what is this nonsense now, no? Anyone? You guys are thinking, I'm sure you guys know what is black gold. Anyone? Both are liquid, I said. That is a clue. Okay, I've got few responses, but I need more. Come on, brother, just apply. This is the way to learn. No idea, sir. Okay. No. What is this? Okay. Middle East countries, Gulf countries, Arab countries, what is their most popular export to the world? What do they sell to the world mainly? Apart from a bit of flamboyance and all that, what do they sell? Yes. Yes. Very good. There we go. Nuha. Perfect. Very good. What I have said gold, so I'm confused. Akira, you have said crude oil for what? Black gold, I think. Petrol, okay, that is the refined form. Yeah, okay. Now you guys are getting some. Yes. Basically, black gold is, right? Crude oil. The crude oil. I can't write it there anyway, for some reason. Crude oil, right? Then the clear gold is, one of you guys had actually said it correctly. Nuha, I think. Clear gold is basically Sri Lanka has pure natural water. Sri Lanka is one of the countries in the world, one of the few countries in the world. We still have pristine, pure natural water deposits are there in our country. We are doing whatever we can to, make it a bit unclean, right? That's, we are good at that, but we have. So, what I'm trying to show with this example is, now we can't look at Saudi Arabia and say they have the best land resources. We don't have anything. The quality of land they have, quality of land we have, it's different. And there is a value for both. Because end of the day, humans can survive without crude oil-based, petroleum-based products like petrol, diesel, kerosene oil, things like that. No, we find it difficult, we find it tough in our country at the moment. But you understand, but humans can't survive without water. No, most of our bodies made out of water. We need water. Get what I'm saying? So is that clear with us? So you have to understand the quality of land is not the same. And it changes from country to country. You can't say one is the best and the other is the worst. It doesn't work like that. Of course, there are some countries in the world like Singapore, if you take, they have very minimal natural resources, but still they have achieved development. That's another thing to look at. Okay, right. Every country has a base of land, right? I think you guys are clear. on these characteristics. Now we know how to recognize land resources. Or if you are given a resource, how to say it's land. Right. Then let's talk renewable, non-renewable, or non-renewable and renewable. Okay. Renewable resources, non-renewable resources, sorry. Very simply, these are lifeless. They are lifeless natural resources. Okay, lifeless natural resources here, lifeless natural resources. Basically, things like crude oil deposits, coal, certain natural gas, mineral deposits, these are all examples for non-renewable, right? Shall depreciate. The more we use them, the stock keeps reducing and reducing and reducing and reducing, right? And at one point, we will completely finish this. The world is set to finish using all the crude oil deposits we have discovered by about 2050, job done. No more. Because for crude oil is basically known as a fossil fuel, no? So to develop for naturally for crude oil deposits to be created, it takes hundreds of thousands of, not hundreds of, millions of years. We believe, scientists believe, I don't know, right? These bones and carbonic things about carbonic life forms, you know, animals and trees and things like that, that have died many millions of years ago, thousands of millions of years ago, have decayed, and this crude oil has been created. That's why we end up calling it fossil fuels. Get it? Right. So non-renewable. So when it comes to non-renewable, what should we do? We should be very economical. We should be very efficient with the way we use our non-renewable resources, because we have a certain limited stock available. Right. Then renewable resources are live natural resources, living things, naturally renewed. That's the meaning. Renewable, naturally renewed. The stock keeps increasing. Can be re-established to a certain extent by human intervention also. Humans can do this. Unfortunately, most of the time, more than humans helping to re-establish, they exploit and make certain renewable resources. We have made them into non-renewable by making them extinct. I'll explain in a bit, with a quick example. So we can definitely use a bit of science and technology here to establish them. Then forest resources, examples are important, right? Forest resources, fisheries resources, etc. Good examples, right? I'll use the forest resource, sorry, the fisheries resource as an example. Now, in Sri Lanka also we do this, but not in the same scale. Now, if you take Japan, Japan has a big fisheries industry. So in Japan, they have this huge fishing ships there. You can't call them boats. They are huge fishing vessels, ships, right? They go out to sea and they stay in the deep sea, international waters for about 3-4 months sometimes. And inside the ship, they have huge storage facilities. They have all these automated mechanical, nets and things like that, and everything is there, right? And they not only can catch the fish, not only they can store the fish in freezers and everything, they can even process it. Even the processing, the ship is like a factory. Even the processing, the cleaning the fish, everything, they clean, cut, pack, and it's basically when they come to the harbor after 3-4 months, the only thing they do is directly they can sell the processed fishes itself, right? So huge vessels. Now these kinds of ships, there are many like that. And when they go to the sea, the open ocean, and when they start fishing, when they go for one round of fishing, those huge nets they use, the entire school of fish, a group of fish is called a school of fish, English, right? The entire school of fish in that part of the ocean, sometimes they capture at once. So the entire fishing, the kids, the parents, the grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives, the whole fish family caught to the net at once. I'm sure some of you guys are thinking of certain animations and all that now. But the basic idea is the entire thing is caught. And what happens is, this is called overfishing. This is called what? Overfishing. Does happen. And when that is done, when 10 or 20 those big ships do that in a part of the ocean, completely the fishing resource is wiped out. And you're not giving enough time for nature to naturally renew. Nature works slowly, no? Right? When nature gets angry, works very quickly, right? But nature works slowly. It takes time to re-establish. So when human activities, when we overdo this, when we exploit, we don't give nature the time to renew. And sometimes certain species of fish and marine life forms are completely extinct now because we have overfishing and exploited. Did I make sense? Are we okay? So when it comes to renewable resources, what is the key? The renewable resources, the key is this word that the United Nations organization is very big about, right? Sustainability. The key word is sustainability. Use the natural resources, use everything, but use them in such a way to leave enough for the future generations. Don't overdo things. Don't exploit. Think about the future. Think about the future generations. So this is why the United Nations organization, the biggest multilateral organization in the world, has introduced something called SDGs. What are SDGs? Can someone tell me what SDGs are? Very quickly. Someone? Anyone? No one? What are SDGs? No? Even recently I saw on television, they were talking about this. Very good. Akila. Brilliant. Anyone else? What are SDGs? Christine, brilliant. Excellent. Madija, very good. Sarah, very good. Khadija, good. Very good. Yes. Excellent. So there we go. Right. Hasini, yes, correct. Good. Sustainable development goals. So they have introduced with a 17, right? We'll learn about them. Don't worry now. Don't think, my God, I have to learn 17 things. We'll learn in unit 11, growth and development. Sustainable development goals, 17 goals they have introduced, which all the countries, including Sri Lanka, the member countries of the United Nations organization, have to achieve by 2030. This program is a 15-year program. It started in 2015. So from 2015 by 2030, we believe if we achieve these 17 development goals, which are sustainability based, thinking about the future, right? We will be able to convert most countries in the world into developed countries. Hopefully, for you and me, for our sake, one of those countries, the way it's going now, we have only 8 more years, unlikely, but at least this, let's hope, even though it's a bit unrealistic, but let's hope one of those countries is Sri Lanka, right? Okay, our ambitious target is now to become a fully developed country when we celebrate 100 years of independence. When we celebrate when? What? 100 years of independence, right? That's what we are targeting now. Okay. Yeah, this is always valid. Let's go to the next set of slides now. Okay, right. Where are we? Here. Okay. So, if you guys are okay, we can talk capital now. Yeah. So we start capital with the same thing, Buddha. Now, in case you're wondering where is this note on renewable, non-renewable, it is there. It's in your study material. Okay, don't worry. In the reading area, I have given. an explanation on renewable and non-renewable. So don't worry about that. Let's take capital now, the second factor of production. Please write that short and sweet, but very complete definition. And then the rest of the description is given. Okay, quickly write this. I didn't want to say this in the beginning because I was not sure whether I will have to do it or not. I was hoping I will not have to, but it seems that due to a personal reason, I unfortunately will have to finish the session a bit early today. Maybe about 15 to 20 minutes or so early. Let's see, right? Until I absolutely have to stop the session and attend this other thing, I will keep doing. Okay, right. I do apologize. I know you guys get disappointed whenever I say I'm going to finish the session a bit early. Okay, so I understand that and I apologize for the disappointment. Disappointed, yes? Yes or no? Right, should be disappointed. Right, okay. Quickly write this with a man-made real assets. Sometimes we directly say physical assets. I think the more appropriate term is real assets. Right? Oh, sorry. Real assets. Real assets. Which assist or aid in the production process. Assist or aid in the production process. Or we can say assist or aid in the process of producing goods and services. Okay, process of producing goods and services or production of goods and services. Okay, right. Now there are two keywords that one has to really focus on when it comes to capital. Obviously, they are man-made, number one. Number two, real assets. The problem is not with you guys, but sometimes with other students is they only look at the first thing. They look at the first thing. And thereby mistakenly think certain things are capital because they are man-made, or today, of course, we are more woke, right? We are more, broad in our thinking. So more than the word man-made, today many economists and many broad-minded people like to use the word human-made. Okay, human-made. That's better. Okay, man means it's more gender biased, no? Human-made, real assets. So most people focus on this term human-made. Okay, human-made. Of course, when I hear the word man gives the broader meaning of humanity. Get it? Right. So they only focus on the word human-made. No, capital is not only things human-made, they are human-made and they have to be what assets? Real assets. Real assets meaning we should be able to use them as factors of production and we should be able to use them and produce goods and services. Produce goods and services. We use the word real. Whenever we use the word real in opportunity cost. You guys remember? Whenever we use the word real, the meaning we are trying to give is, right? Whenever we use the word real, more than anything, what we are trying to say is, we are trying to say not financial or not monetary, right? Not monetary. Okay, monetary, non-monetary, not monetary. Monetary means money. So the same idea only we gave in opportunity cost discussion also. We kept saying opportunity cost is a real concept, not a financial concept, not about money. So capital is man-made real assets. So that means real. Real means then not financial, non-monetary, not monetary. Real is to give the meaning. It's in the material form, right? It's in terms of a good or a service form. It's a material form is there. So real meaning, it has to be something of a material nature, not a financial thing, material nature. Could be in the form of a tangible thing, i.e. good, could be in the form of a intangible thing, a service, but it has to be real, that we are using in producing goods and services, assisting, aiding us in producing goods and services. So all this discussion comes down to something very simple. What is that? If capital is human-made real asset, money is not capital. Money is not capital. Money in the basic form that we know is, money in its most basic form is what? Money in its most basic form is currency. No? What is currency, Puta? I'm sorry if I'm confusing you. These are the proper terms. That's why. Currency is, in Sri Lanka, rupee coins and rupee notes. Coins and notes. It's called currency. Coins and notes, the basic form of money, currency, is human-made. It's printed at in a factory in Biyagama, based on the commission of, that means based on the instructions given by the only institution in Sri Lanka who has the legal authority to print money and mint coins, that is the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. So money is human-made, currency is human-made, coins and notes are human-made. When you guys were small, I'm sure you have enough and more times heard from your parents when you ask for many things, and when you ask for ridiculously expensive things sometimes, because you're small, you don't understand, you ask for them. Yeah, not as if now you're going to ask your parents with all these economic challenges to buy me the newest iPhone and all that, no, Buddha. Right? When you were small, right? When you went and ask your parents, you know, buy me that and buy me this and all that, sometimes your parents, when they get a bit annoyed or whatever, they say, no, do you think money grows on what? They ask me sometimes, no, do you think money grows on what? Yes, they ask, do you think money grows on trees? No? Or do they ask, you know, do you think we pluck money from the a tree? You know, they ask, the very famous saying, no? So, so that itself tells you that money is not natural, no, man. Money is human made. Then why is money not capital? Because money is financial. Money is monetary. Money is not material in nature. Money as money cannot be used to produce any good or service. Money as a, think of a 100 rupee note, that 100 rupee note, as a 100 rupee note, what can you use it to as an input? What can you produce using it as an input? As a 100 rupee note itself, in the material form, what can you do with it? Can someone tell me a good or service that can be produced where the main raw material, the main input is a 100 rupee note? Not other things you can buy with the 100 rupees. That's not what I'm asking. As a 100 rupee note itself, is there anything we can do? No, because money is not a real asset. Money cannot be used in production like in a material form. So money is not a factor of production. Money is not a factor of production. So money is not capital. Money is not capital. Capital is not financial. Capital is real in economics. Real concept, real assets. Are we clear with that? Right. That's why I said I like the word real more than the word physical. It's better. It's clearer. Then now, okay, with everything that I said up to now, am I saying we don't need money for production? Is that what I am saying? No, that is not what I am saying. I am saying money is not capital. Money is not a factor of production. Money is not a real asset, but money is essential for production, right? Because money is what we call, I have to change the color for this. Money is what we call financial capital. What? Financial capital. Capital as a factor of production. Capital as a factor of production is real. Okay, money is financial capital. What do we do with financial capital? Financial capital is what gives us the ability to get the what real assets we need. We have to buy or outright purchase, lease, rent, no, the things you see there, the equipments, the machinery, the factories, the vehicles, the computers, the systems, all that we need to produce. Otherwise, raw material we need. Otherwise, we can't produce. But to do those, we need the what capital? Financial capital. But money itself is not capital. Money itself is not capital. Are we clear? I think we are very clear here. I think I touched on everything in a logical way. Did I? Or am I just imagining this? No responses. Then we have to start again. I haven't done my job. Are we clear? Very famous question in your paper, by the way. Right? Right. Good for you guys. So let me clear this a bit and quickly we'll read the rest of the note. Yeah. Right. This is printed. Remember how we do the description? Capital is known as a real and a stock concept. I'll explain. That's a very simple thing. The use of capital tends to increase labor productivity. See some of the key characteristics of capital, right? More machinery, equipment, technology we use, we can produce more goods and services. Efficiency, productivity improves. Economic price reward for all capital resources used in production is known as interest. What is the price? Reward? Interest. Common word. Whatever we call it in real life, doesn't matter. In economics, if it's capital, interest. Human-made real assets acting as a production aid. If there's a payment or an income from that, it's called interest. Okay? Right. Stock concept. What does this mean? Stock concept. We always give the capital, how much capital we have. What is the total value of the buildings, machinery, equipment, vehicles, systems, computers, whatever we have, the capital, right? We give the value, right? As at, or we give the value at a given point of time. Point of time. Okay, given point of time. Stock concept, because from one point of time to another point of time, the value of the capital stock could change because the amount of the capital items could change. There could be a depreciation. There could be a new capital asset added. So from one point of time to another, the value of the capital assets can change. So we give it at a given point of time or as at this date, stock of capital. Stock. Stock concepts are, one is capital, other things like assets, liabilities, equity, things you have. You guys have a fancy name for this, I know. But most of you guys, at least in O-levels, have learned there's thing called balance sheet. Have you heard a balance sheet? Yes, accounting statement, a balance sheet. Yes. What do you have in a balance sheet? What do we record in a balance sheet? What are the three main things we have in a balance sheet? Three main items or the categories. We have. No one is doing accounting. Yes. Assets, equity, liability, or liability, equity, then assets. No? These three things. Right. Have you noticed from O-levels, even in A-levels, how do you date a balance sheet? How you put the date in a balance sheet? You put this so and so business and statement of financial position and all that, blah, blah, blah. And then how do you put the date? You say, very good. I'm getting some responses. Brilliant. Yes, you say as at. Why do we say that? Because what is included in the balance sheet are the stock concepts. Stock concepts. Balance sheet is like with a easy way. This is easy. Balance sheet is where you ask the assets, liability, equity to stand still and you take a picture. Think of taking a family portrait or something, take a picture, father, mother, kids, and, everyone, grandparents, you get your attention, cameraman has a time, and right at and you go. Get it? You take a picture. Next moment, one click, right? Next, in another few seconds, if you click again, there might be a small difference in the two pictures. Yes or no? Because these things keep changing. So balance sheet. Then the income statement or statement of comprehensive income, if not income statement, that you say year ended. What do we have there? We have basically income and expenditure in the income statement. No, sales minus cost of sales. Then the other expenditure items are there. Then you get the net profit or net loss story, right? So profits, then income, expenditure. These are flow concepts. What is the opposite of a stock concept? The opposite of a stock concept is called flow concepts. Capital is a stock concept. Okay, that's it. That's the story. Some examples I have given. Go through everything. Think of this a bit. Unfortunately, I will have to conclude now, right? But think of this a bit. I'll give a question for you to think about. Some food for thought I'll give you. Livestock. You know what livestock is, correct? The animals that we have in farms, right? Animals in farms, animals, human-made real asset, capital, correct or wrong? Is livestock, capital or land? Okay, if you take, yes, capital, okay. Now, if you take, this is the food for thought part, I'll quickly finish with this. Think about maybe an elephant, a tusker, right? Land or capital? I've done this twice today. I mean, this kind of questions. An elephant, land or capital? Land, capital, capital. Ask the question. What is the question? In what context? Elephant in the Yala Nature Preserve is land or capital? A wild elephant in Yala, land or capital? Land. Yes. An elephant used by a logging company who cut trees to pull the logs. Kotang adina ali attu. What are they? They are capital. Get it? So always look at the context and give your answer. Okay? Right. So go through the examples. Next week, we're going to learn the characteristics of capital, and we are going to do the types of capital discussion, which is important. There are questions in the exam. And then we'll go into labor entrepreneurship. Are we okay? So I do apologize again for having to finish the class a bit early today, but please excuse me. And I think whatever we learned properly and you guys understood. Yes or no? Are we okay? Right. With that, let me conclude the session.